So, I want to talk about the importance of prioritization today. This is something that a lot of people fail to do, and I'm no exception. It's one of the biggest things I struggle with in terms of determining what my priorities are and learning to just focus on them. And I think there are really two parts to this. The first part is firstly determining what those priorities are, because oftentimes many of us are so consumed with trying to do so many things at the same time, and we forget to slow down and question ourselves. Is this really what I want to do? And importantly, is this really what I need to do? And that exercise is important because it helps you to get clear on what your priorities are. And of course, your priorities will change over the years, over the course of your life, but you always have those important periods where you have to teach yourself to pause and ask yourself, at this stage of my life, what is the most important thing to me? Or what are the most important things to me? Because there could be several things you could be working on. So the first part is just getting clear on what your priorities are, having a list or having one thing you've identified as the most important thing you need to focus on at this stage of your life. The second part to this is now trying to figure out or understand or put in place specific habits, rituals, and routines, basically trying to build the right behavior and character when it comes to committing to your priorities. Because the issue that many people face, even after they've identified what their priorities are, is that because they've lived a certain kind of way for so long, it's very difficult to readjust their lifestyle in order to now focus on the thing that they've identified is important to them. I think anyone can really get clear about their priorities, but majority of people aren't able to sit down and focus on pursuing those priorities. And I guess the next logical question would be, why is that? Why is it so hard, even after you know what it is you need to do and what it is you need to focus on? Why is it so hard for people to pursue those things that are of importance to them? Well, if I'm being honest, I think the first part is that many people just don't know what's important to them. And so this is why you have a lot of people who are pursuing things that are not in alignment with what it is they need to be doing at different stages of their life. I'll give you an example. A classic common example is students. A lot of them have really no understanding or no clear insight into why they're in school. Excuse the background noise, there's a lot of construction going on down the road here where I'm staying. So basically, a lot of the students don't have a clear insight into why they're going to school and the purpose that it serves in their life, because many of them are just with any other human being, you basically follow the natural path that everyone's taken, or what's known as the natural path. And so everyone goes to school, then you go to university, you get a job afterwards, then if you're lucky, afford a house, get a car, get married, have kids, work until retirement, retire, and then spend the rest of your years, I guess, enjoying your retirement or trying to live like you couldn't live for the last 40 years of your life. So for many people, there's this safe pathway that society has established for many humans. And so all it takes is just following that. But what I've come to find is that if you never question why it is you're doing certain things, if you never question why society has accustomed so many people to believing that there is only one path in life, then you'll never figure out what it is that's important to you, right? And you'll never be able to get a clear sense of what your priorities need to be, because you're just basing your life off of the crowd. You're just basing your life off of what everyone else is doing. And so in the case of students, the common distractions they get themselves to when they go to school is alcohol. They join a group because of peer pressure and they start doing stupid things they're not supposed to do. Number 3, they prioritize social media and they prioritize trying to show their friends and everyone else around their social circle, what they're up to, and, oh, look at me, I'm so cool, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then the biggest of all is number 4, relationships. I've seen too many pathetic examples of young people going to school and getting into relationships. You have to be very clear why you're in school. You're not there to get married. You're not there to find a partner, a lover. You're not there to do all this nonsense. As far as I'm concerned, as far as your parents are concerned, those are distractions. Because the basic definition of a distraction is that it takes you away from focusing on the thing that's most important to you. And relationships are one of those major distractions that many people get themselves dragged into. And this is just not the case for students and young people. This is the case for every living human being on the planet. We get ourselves so entangled in all these relationships, and for the most part, it doesn't do us any good, because as humans, as social creatures, we become highly dependent, highly emotional on the other partner. This is why there's so many possessive relationships. This is why we see a lot of domestic violence in our homes and communities, simply because of that. And so, in order for us to change that narrative, a lot of our kids have to understand that there is a time and place, there is a season for everything. And the only time you get yourself into unnecessary problems, unnecessary trouble, is when you try to do things you're not supposed to do, when you try to rush things, and when you think that, oh, I can go to school whilst playing mommy and daddy at the same time. So I'm using the example of students because I've seen that that's one of the most common examples of a lot of the different problems we're seeing amongst our young people, is that they're trying to do so many things at the same time. I mean, what's incredible is that you're not even independent yet. You're not even earning your own money, and yet you want to act like you've got everything under control. You want to act like, oh, I can have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or I can do this and that, and I can sleep around, and I can show off, and I can drive around my parents' vehicle, and I can do all those things. And, let me be clear, I don't have a problem with kids who do that. But if you aspire, especially for those of you that follow this channel and look up to me, if you aspire to be different, then you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself from a destructive path and lifestyle like that, because it is not going to do any good for you. And so my advice would be, number one, if you are in school, your only priority, the only thing that's important to you and that should matter at the end of the day, is your school. And your goal is to perform academically well in school. And even if you're a struggling student, as long as your whole mind, body, and soul is focused on your education, then, the universe will help you figure out a way to get through that difficult period. But you have to first get clear on what it is you're doing and why you're in school. Ask yourself, why am I in school? What am I working towards? What's the purpose of me doing this in the first place? So I hope that example drives home the point of first understanding what it is that's important to you at this stage of your life, because when you don't do that, then you try to do so many things that ultimately derail your efforts towards accomplishing your most important goals. So for a lot of you kids in school now, the reason why you don't know what your priority is because you haven't really figured out that education is my number one priority. And the reason why you haven't figured that out is because you're so caught up trying to do everything and trying to be out there for everyone and trying to be the cool person and trying to fit into a group. Forget about that. It's not going to do any good. Trust me. I've been there. I've done that. It didn't serve me well, and it will never serve me well. This is why I choose to stay away from those things. So the only way you're going to figure out that your priority now for you kids in school is your education is to first get clear on why you're in school. Then you're going to realize that, okay, my parents didn't put me to school to do XYZ and to get myself into all these distractions I've been getting myself into. So you first have to understand, why are you doing the thing that you're doing? Why are you pursuing the current path that you're on? So I hope that example drives home the point of first learning to figure out what your priorities are by taking a look at your current life and the path that you're currently on and the things that you're presently doing, whether that's schooling, whether that's work, whether that's running a business, whether that's focusing on just getting your mind to a certain stage where you can then focus on pursuing the things that are important to you long term. Now, in my humble opinion, and mostly through my own personal experience, I've seen that is no way to live a truly fulfilled and meaningful life, because there's so many people that suffer unnecessarily by pursuing a life and a path that's not aligned with what they need to do. And a lot of it comes down to just not knowing what it is they need to be doing. And a lot of it comes down to not taking the time to figure out, what do I really want? What do I want to pursue? What speaks to me? What's my purpose? Why am I even on this planet in the first place? From my understanding, the difficulty that many people have of even learning to sit down and pursue the things that are important to them starts with them not having a clear sense or clear idea of what their priorities are. And so that's the first hurdle. That's the first important thing that you have to overcome, that you have to address. You have to get very clear on what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to pursue. Because once you figure that out, everything else becomes easy. It's not science to figure out what it is you want, because it's a personal, it's a very subjective thing. But it's science when it comes to building your life and establishing the right habits and routines and behaviors that'll enable you to pursue your focus areas in life. So the first part is highly subjective, and that requires you to do a lot of internal soul searching. It requires you to importantly do what I've been passionately speaking about on the channel, which is for you to learn to pause and think. You see, the reason why I figured out what it is I wanted to do wasn't because God opened the skies and said, here's your purpose, here's your mission, Crystal. I took the time to pause and think. I took the time to take a break from everything else going on external, everything that I was initially caught up in, to create the space for me to be able to think about what was important to me. And so for a lot of you, I would advise that that's something similar that you have to do. You have to identify all the things that are currently consuming you at the moment, and find a way to create space in your life where you're able to think deeply about the most important things to you. Because this soul searching activity, this thing that you're going to have to figure out, your life's work, your life's purpose, your life's mission, doesn't come when there's so much noise around you. And the reason why many people never find it is because there's so much noise in their lives. And the way I've experienced it is that when you get extremely quiet, when you learn to dial down all the external noise and distractions and all the fluff that society says is important for us to take on into our lives, when you do that, something magical happens. You essentially create the right environment that's ripe for your higher self, for the highest expression of God, that is you, to be able to speak through. And I've experienced that experience many times, and it's an experience that not many religious people experience, because religion has taught you to be more external than it has taught you to be internal. Spirituality, on the other hand, teaches you to be internal first, because the world around you, everything that you want externally, is a reflection of what it is inside of you. And so you have to first learn to master yourself within. This is why all the great spiritual masters throughout the ages have talked about learning to first master oneself before you can manage the world outside of you. So the easiest way to figure out what it is you want to do in life, what it is you're brought into this world to do, is to first learn to pause and be quiet and learn to ask simple questions. It's kind of like you open your subconscious mind, you plant those questions in, and then you just allow them to simmer slowly while you maintain a peaceful and no thought mindset. So basically while you experience mindfulness. And this is why meditation is a very powerful ability for everyone to learn, in my opinion. But it's something that not many of us are raised with, and it's something that many of us are not taught and exposed to very early on. And I know there's been a lot of requests since the last video came out, so I will I've already put together the script of how I'm going to do a video on a meditation for beginners, so it's definitely coming. Do stay tuned for that. So the first part is basically figuring out what it is you want to do. The second part is now the scientific sort of external stuff that you have to do to be able to put yourself in the right environment to pursue the things that are of most importance to you. And I would say that the second part can be tricky for a lot of people, because a lot of it is highly dictated on one's ability to create an environment that enables them to thrive doing the things that they're supposed to do. And so a big part of it is learning to remove all the distractions that are currently weighing down on you, because your energy is finite. There's only so much you can do at one given time. And if you try to distribute your energy to so many things, then you do what they call spread yourself thinly. And so what you want to do is you want to be very good at a few things. You don't want to be average at many things. And I find that it's much easier to focus on your priorities, because our lives are lived in cycles and seasons. And so, for example, if you're in school, then the only thing you're focused on is your education. You're not worried about how am I going to pay the bills, and how do I find a life partner, and things like that. Your focus area is just on a single thing as you go through different seasons of your life. And so it does help when you get clear on what are your priorities as you progress through different aspects of your life, different periods of your life. But when it comes to now actually sitting down and executing on those priorities, now actually sitting down and making sure that you're taking the actions towards your most important goals, I find that a lot of it has to do with, importantly, calling out all the distractions in your life, because then you don't have any avenues, any streams from which your attention and energy can be pulled away from what's important to you. And so this is why I talk a lot about the importance of isolation and learning to limit your social interactions and your social circles, because when you're around too many people all the time, then you're giving away your important energy. And as I mentioned, your energy is finite. There's only so much you can do with the finite energy you're given in a single day. And so you want to make sure that your highest priorities are the first things that you take care of, first thing in the day. And then you don't delay them and try to do them at later times during the day. And so this is why I really believe in the concept of Eat That Frog. It's a phenomenal book by Brian Tracy that I would encourage everyone to get their hands on. And what Eat the Frog talks about is it teaches you to learn to basically do the most difficult thing that you would naturally want to avoid doing. So whether it's this very important assignment that you need to complete or a very urgent report that you need to produce for your boss or for your team or for the project you're working on, basically by eating that frog, you're learning to do the most difficult thing for the day, which makes the rest of the day so much more easier, such a breeze. So I've found that the less distractions I have, in fact, when I have absolutely no distractions at all, it's so much more easier to focus on what's important to me, because the natural thing that I gravitate towards, or the natural thing that sort of encompasses my mind and my everyday thinking, is my work. Because what else am I doing but that? And so what you want to do is you want to identify, what are the different distractions or different things that are drawing your energy and attention away from what it is you need to be focusing on. Now, happy to do like a separate video on how to structure your day and how to call out distractions in your life so that you're able to focus on what's important to you. But I don't want to make this video too long. But I hope I've gotten the main crux of the conversation across to you all, which is the importance of prioritization in your life. You have to be able to figure out what it is that's important to you. That's the only way you're going to get ahead on the most important things. Because here's the thing, there are two types of people in life. There are people that are constantly busy, but they're never getting anywhere good. And there are people who don't ever seem to be busy, but oh my, they seem to be progressing so fast in a matter of years, in a matter of a few years. So you want to be the individual that doesn't seem to be so busy in life, but they quietly work away at the most important things to them. So they're very effective and efficient with their time, with their commitments. You'll find that you're going to accomplish a lot of things in a matter of a few years that takes people decades in their lives, or that people really never are able to achieve. So I hope this video was helpful. Again, let me know your thoughts. I love to converse with you all in the comments section. And I'll catch you on the next video.